All right, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. And I am so excited to be presenting our latest office hours live virtual Q&A, financial advice for neurodivergent professionals. And as you saw, if you have registered for this session, you know that it's a very needed conversation that we need to have around being neurodivergent and managing finances, which is honestly one of the most overwhelming things for me personally, because I am terrified of numbers. I can't deal with it. So, but luckily we have an expert here today to discuss that. Now, we're just going to get started here. So I'm just going to introduce myself real quick for anybody who doesn't know me. My name is Veronica Yao. I am the career coach behind Atypical Careers, and I specialize in helping neurodivergent professionals build sustainable work lives. Because who doesn't want that? Who wants to be burnt out at the end of the day? I mean, we've all kind of felt some sort of variation of that for sure. But what we want to do today is really tackle, how, our finances, and maybe chat a little bit about how it kind of impacts our work life and vice versa. So definitely, Jessie is definitely one of the best people to talk about this. She is a finance educator at Kaizen Lemonade, which is a really exciting new project that it is coming up. So Jessie, I've been talking a lot. Why don't you take it and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hello, everyone. Hi, I'm Veronica. My name is Jessie. First thing, I think that the timing of this is very cosmic because this month is actually Financial Literacy Month. So I think it's kind of a really great timing that we're doing this. Since you don't know me yet, I'm going to give you kind of a very honest, but not like sad girl dog story. I'm a single mother of two. One of my kids is actually autistic and couldn't attend school for 4 years. And I dealt with an ex who spent 8 years dragging me through court because he would rather do that instead of pay child support. I've been through shelters. I have lived in my car. I've lived on peanut butter and bread. That's the kind of budgeting I've lived on. And I've survived a relationship that nearly cost me my life and my home. I'm ADHD, autistic, and I battled CPTSD. So my brain ran on basically side quest and survival mode at the same time. On top of all that, I'm deaf, so, sprinkle, let's just add that into there. So if you don't think I know about, I do know about. I do have multiple degrees from everything from marketing to carpentry to healthcare, which I'm sure with ADHD, we can all relate to that. I got my financial license in 2021 because I wanted to understand how the top 1% of the wealthy people are building their wealth. It was just more kind of wanted to peek in and see what was actually going on. And honestly, the only reason why I've actually kind of renewed it the way that I'm doing it now is because so many people have asked me money questions, and I realized, okay, I think it's time to make this official instead of just trying to trauma coach everybody in the group chat. So it made sense to just really kind of validate this. And if you have been looking for me online and found nothing, because you won't find anything if you're Googling me right now, Kaizen Lemonade is still in the soft launch kind of phase. I'm building it for the neurodivergent and the disabled creatives first, not necessarily for algorithm, because I don't really need to publicize myself in that way.
Yeah. Thank you so much for that introduction. And we're definitely going to hear a lot more about you during this Q&A today. And just for anybody who has not, who has been to an office hours before, you're going to find that this one's going to be run a little bit different. We're going to have an introduction presentation by Jessie, who has put together a really great small presentation on, financial mindset and, really how it impacts neurodivergent people and stuff like that. And so we're going to do that first. And at the very end, we do have some pre-submitted questions that we will be going over. If you do have any questions that you'd like to ask, we'll try our best to get to them if you leave them in the chat. No promises, but we'll do our best. But that's pretty much it. Anything else from you, Jessie, before we get started with the presentation?
Yeah, I just noticed something pop up about it's the LLQP, which is for Ontario. Each province has its own regulating financial body, and then we have the federal regulating body, which regulates all of our ethics, making sure that we're not doing money laundering or anything like that.
Yeah. And I just want to chime in and say, by the way, because we have an audience from all around the world, not just Canada, which is where me and Jesse are from, we won't be able to give region specific financial advice today. But what we are going to focus a lot more on are, the dealing with the real problems that come with, being neurodivergent and trying to manage money. If you have money to begin with, which is like something that I hear so often from my clients, is like, how am I going to get out of this stressful, scenario if I don't have the money to kind of pull myself out and everything. So we're going to be really be addressing mindset. We're going to be addressing some practical tools that you can use and everything. So I'm really excited for all of you guys to get this information here. So why don't we get started? If you're cool with that, Jesse, I'm going to move to the next slide.
Dive in.
Let's do it. Oh my gosh. Okay, hang on. There's a pop-up and it's covering the button that I want to press. Come on, do the thing. Okay, here we go. Take it away.
Okay, first I want to say, I'm going to be really real with you. I'm not sitting here pretending to be a millionaire. I'm not going to hit you with the whole, I made 200K in 30 days kind of story. What is true about where I'm at right now is that I'm no longer drowning. I have more spoons than I used to, not because life got easier, but because I finally stopped burning them on chaos and the guilt spiral, the shame spiral. These are the things that we tend to go through a lot. Because the thing is that stress is going to happen regardless. That's the trick. The trick is just how do you spend your spoon on it? Because that shift alone can make the difference of you getting from broke to the next step. And so that's why I actually started creating the ebook. It actually was Veronica that inspired me to make the book, because she had so many questions and we were just literally sitting there in the cafe talking about it. And I was like, this could literally be a book. And then we were laughing about it. And then it actually ended up happening. So that's why I made this book and why this webinar is existing. Because a lot of what you're going to learn today comes from the tools that I built myself when I was tired of fighting for my own life kind of thing. And the goal is to be neurodivergent friendly, trauma aware, and focused on strategy, because I don't like fluff. Right? Fluff doesn't do anything when you've got $5 in your bank account. And the traditional finance world wasn't designed for brains like ours, if we're being honest. Every now and then you might see it looks like I'm reading some notes, and it's because I am. But if I don't, I will spiral and you will hear 10 different side stories and a whole documentary tangent. And this is how I stay focused and making sure that this becomes 1 hour and not 3 hours. So it's really important that I have these notes to keep me focused. So we've covered who I am and why I'm here. The first thing I want to do before we dive into any of the money systems and things like that is focusing on some of the neurodivergent money struggles that we have and the myths that we have been fed. Because let's face it, a lot of them do not apply and verify why we are in the position that we're in. So I'm not going to deep dive into all of them. If you can read it, that's great. If you can't, I can read it out for you. But basically, the first one is disability is expensive. Income is unreliable, and the math ain't mathing. We are not lazy. Please remember this. You are not lazy if you are in this situation. You're in a game that was not set up for people with our brain. Okay, because we're counting spoons all the time, and that's a very real thing that we have to deal with. And also, having a disability is expensive. We have to pay, $300 for sound canceling headphones. Me as a deaf person, I have to pay for my hearing aid. It's not covered as much as we think that they should be, to be honest. And even things like having access to things, for example, being able to pick up the phone and call versus using an email because that's what works for us. Those are things that cost money, which is why having a disability is expensive and sometimes a full-time job, right? So that's why that's one of the myths that we need to really kind of realize is not true to who we are. Systems are inaccessible, irrelevant, and often overpriced. So I've tried so many budget templates for my ADHD, even the one that would say ADHD budget template, and I've tried it, and the reality is that none of them stick. None of them really work. And for that reason, it makes it very difficult for us to budget. I hate the word budget. We'll get into that into something else. But it makes it difficult to be able to be staying online and doing all these templates. Because the other thing too about budget templates is, how do I budget $5? So when they have this list of all these things that you're supposed to pay for, I'm like, Okay, aside from rent, what else am I paying for? Because I have $5, right? So it's very irrelevant to what we're dealing with and what we're struggling with, and some of the way that we process our information. And most advice out there equals neurodivergent fail. Just track your expenses, just like the budget thing. And I always used to be like, okay, Janet, but like, what if my executive function filed for divorce? A lot of our money advice seems to skip over the stuff that actually matters to us. And a lot of us are dealing with trauma, and we're dealing with like days where we shut down and we have like low spoon days, and we've let things slide, and we've got like emails. Like I still have an email inbox that has 1,500 emails that I haven't even opened yet. So when we're dealing with things like that, it's very difficult to be able to focus on our budgeting. The first thing I want to do actually is, it might be fun, it might not be fun, but it's a little thing that I like to call traffic light check. Okay, it's not a personality quiz, it's not a shame method or anything like that. It's literally just a quick way to figure out which zone you're operating from when it comes to money. Because most of us don't realize, especially when we're subconsciously conditioned by our parents or our life and whatnot, that we've been living in one particular color for years, like I did for 20 years. So this isn't about like calling everybody out, it's about figuring out where you're at, so that you know what actions you need to do to move the needle out of that space. Because if you try to use green light strategies while your nervous system is stuck in like red light, you're going to burn more spoons than you have. So the purpose of this is to just see where you are right now and how we can shift into a healthier, more kind of powerful one without doing mental gymnastics. So I would like you to just kind of look at this, the red light, yellow light, and go mode is what we call it, rather than green light. So what I would like you to do is to read through this. Is anybody having any trouble reading these, by the way? Can you
Let us know in the chat if you have any feedback, just because everybody is muted. But why don't you go on, and if anybody has any issues reading it, I'm sure that they'll be able to pick it up in the recording as well.
Yeah, because I can actually read them out if anybody's having trouble reading them, and we can go through each one of them. So what I would like you to do is to put a circle mentally, or even write it down. When you read through them all, put a circle in which one do you feel that you actually are doing. Is it kind of hard to, okay. Then I can definitely read them out for you. Okay, let me just, okay. So in the red light, I'm just gonna read them out, and whichever one resonates with you, just put a circle next to it. Okay. First one, prioritizing social events or community obligations over rest, work, or saving, also known as party every day, but not necessarily. Saying yes to requests out of guilt or obligation, even when it puts you in debt. Letting a friend crash for just a few weeks that turn into 6 months. Constantly helping others, even when it hurts you to help them. Taking a low-paying job to stay close to family, or to help your family out. Avoiding financial conversations that might rock the boat, right? We try to stay quiet. Feeling safest when you're surrounded by familiar people or routine. I want to clarify that a little bit, because I know, especially with neurodivergent, we have our routines that make us feel safe and secure, and that's fine. But there's a difference between having your routine that makes you feel safe and secure versus you're actively choosing to avoid things. Okay, so that's the difference between those two. In the yellow light, we have overworking and burning out for a steady paycheck, hoarding savings but fearing investment, judging success by income, title, or home ownership. So buying a house becomes, you do it because it's the responsible thing to do. Fixating on salary or title as proof of value. Shaming people who spend on joy, like, oh, you bought that? Well, that must be nice. I've definitely been there. Avoiding risk, even if it means stagnation. And then in the go mode, outsourcing low energy tasks that drain energy, such as cleaning, admin, groceries, to protect your focus. Creating passive income systems that don't require constant hustle. Saying no to things that don't align with your energy or your values, even if they pay well. Designing life around rest, alignment, impact, asking, how can I make this sustainable before saying yes, and not just automatically saying yes to anything that comes your way. Investing in mentorship, learning, and tools that compress and outsource your time. Okay, so take like 3 minutes, go through each of these, put a circle around the one that where you are at most of the time. I mean, if you circle the whole website, that's fine. But try to focus on where are you at most of the time. Like, for example, I was in the phase of where I was constantly putting myself second. And I was helping everybody else, even financially, even if it hurt me. So that was my zone that I was in the most at one time. After you've done that, I want you to pick one thing from the green zone that you would like to embody more often. Just put a star next to it just to like differentiate them. And then also give yourself some credit, because as much as you might be in a red light or a yellow light zone, there are things that you are doing that might be working for you, that you're not giving yourself enough credit. For example, like, and they may not even be on here, but I think you can make sense of kind of like what it's about. But give yourself credit even just for showing up here. Like, that's a green zone thing. That's a go mode. You're showing up here because you want to learn, you want to improve, you want to be better, things like that. So that's important. So give yourself credit for that even, right? And then once you've done that, this is more just for you to have for your own personal awareness, okay? Because now what we're going to do, I'm just going to put this up here, because Veronica's going to pull up the slide. I'm going to explain why each one of them, what they mean and why. Poor people prioritize relationships, okay? The core belief is that as long as we have each other, we'll get through it. My family is definitely of that mindset. And this mindset often comes from like survival conditions where support network are the safety net, not the money. And this isn't a bad thing. It shows generosity, it shows connection. But when survival depends solely on your community, you are literally one crisis away from like a collapse, okay? It's a heavy weight to place on your community and on yourself, because then you come from the mindset of like, I have to take care of everybody. And sometimes you put yourself second because you do that. These behaviors are more sustainable when it's practiced from a place of stability. It's not about choosing between or being generous to your family and growth. It's about building a foundation where you can give freely without going under. Okay, makes sense? The next one is middle class. This is the yellow zone. Middle class prioritizes money, which you might think like, but that's a great thing. Not always. The core belief is that money equals success, stability, and status, okay? And this group tends to see money as the goal and endpoint, often measured by material achievement, so like buying a house, buying a car, those kind of things. This group tends to get stuck, though, in the earn, spend, save, like hamster wheel. And they're afraid to take any risk that would actually set them free or build any actual wealth. So this mindset is often practical and disciplined, but money without time freedom becomes another trap. So you know how you see those people that have like, they have the house, they have the car, but they never have time for their children. They never have time to go on vacation, things like that. So it's ideal when paired with purpose and like creativity and a pathway to scale, and not just the constant grind, because even that zone is not a healthy zone to be in. So the healthiest zone would be wealthy, obviously, and the wealthy zone prioritizes time. The core belief is time is the most valuable asset. So true wealth thinkers value autonomy, freedom, and scaling. Money is a tool to buy back time, which is why we talk about like outsourcing, things like that. This mindset says, how can I multiply myself without burning out? And this mindset becomes possible when your basic needs are met. Okay, so again, it's not about being lazy, it's about being intentional. Freedom in this format is built, not just found, you know, and I know we talk about like people who, when, you know, they get a lottery ticket and they win and whatnot. If they do not have the wealthy mindset, that's why they said something like 63% of people who have gotten money from the lottery, it's like gone within the first year. So that's why your mindset is important, because if you can't handle how to work with $10, then how do you handle winning $10 million, right? So the next thing we're going to go into is money mistakes and kind of like a bit of a shame detox, if you will. Because now that you've checked your traffic light, I want to talk about something that most financial educators are kind of avoid this topic, right? And money mistakes are things that most of them don't want to talk about it. But I want to talk about it in a way that is not a like you messed up kind of way, but more like we are human. We are wired differently, and we even have survival patterns that replicated stuff that we may not be aware of. This section is more about ownership because ownership is the door that unlocks the next level. And the same aspect when we're in this situation is like the little like critter that kind of keeps stealing your spoons and like locking you out. So there is a difference between the two. So let's go through the money mistakes that we make on the next slide. So these are the top 5 money mistakes that we make as neurodivergent people, okay? Avoiding bills until they become crises. We've all been there, right? It's not stupidity. This is like your amygdala hijacking your executive dysfunction, okay? Your brain thinks that that bill that you got in the mail is a threat, so it freezes. So it's basically survival mode, just wearing a stupid hat is what it is, okay? Number 2 is hyper-focusing on pleasure projects instead of responsible tasks. I definitely have been there, and we have definitely been called irresponsible. And I want to make it really clear that this is not irresponsibility. This is like a dopamine regulation issue. Your brain is literally starting for something that feels good or stimulating, the dopamine, right? And, banking and taxes don't qualify in that category. The next one is emotional spending or micro reward. And I definitely have done that where it's like, oh, well, I'm just going to reward with this little treat. And it's not about being bad with money. It's regulation. It's your nervous system being unregulated and not having access to healthier tools to go for. Because the thing about neurodivergency is most of us have gone through some form of trauma. So now we're dealing with neurodivergency and trauma at the same time. So it's double the workload for us, and that's why we have to work. That's why we're so tired, because we have to work so much harder. Number 4, renting your identity from your panic. And I was definitely guilty of this. Once I fixed everything, my life is going to be perfect. And it's not, and it won't be. Because, if shame was like your project manager, every task feels impossible, right? So that's why you never get to fix anything and then your life being together. So we're always kind of renting our identity when we're in that panic state. Number 5, believing your financial path predicts your financial future. So this is basically coming from trauma. This is not real math. This is literally coming from trauma. And I think we've seen some of the movies where we see people who have like been in poverty and whatnot. And then, they did the hard work, they kind of got there, and now they're doing really well. The thing is for your financial future to succeed, you can't have the same mindset that you had in poverty to maintain a wealth mindset. So that's really kind of key. So what we're going to do now that we've kind of made awareness of the money mistake, then next what we're going to do is we're going to reframe it, okay? This is the reframe that saves the room. And because this is the truth that nobody really says when we were growing up, okay? Depending on what kind of parents and family that you had. But money mistakes are behavior loops, not identity traits. I used to literally hear the whole like, money doesn't grow on trees, and like, what do you think? I'm made of money. And it became an identity trait. I saw my parents that way, and then I saw myself that way. And that's not true. It's literally behavior loop. A loop can be rewritten, okay? But they take years to shift. The same way that you develop an identity in the first 10 years of your life, and then maybe like the next 10 years, they've always shifted, or most of them tend to shift. So the thing to realize is that like you're not broken, you're patterned, and patterns can be changed, okay? So this is where we shift into the shame detox, because shame is the thing that is blocking your clarity, not your intelligence. As neurodivergent, we are freaking smart. Like, let's face it, we know that. We are so smart. We see things that most people don't see. And especially when it comes to like creative problem solving or pattern recognition, there's a lot of things out there that we do see that makes us at a higher level of intelligence. But the thing is that we are also internalizing so much of our emotion, our shame, our guilt, our fear, even to the point that it makes it very, very difficult to see clearly for ourselves. We can see clearly for other people, but sometimes we struggle to see clearly for ourselves. So what we're going to do is a shame detox exercise sort of thing, okay? I'll call it name it, claim it, reframe it, okay? The first thing is we're going to name it. So think of one money mistake that you keep repeating, okay? Not 10, not the whole highlight reel. I've done this, but I think of all the different things I've done wrong. Just one pattern that keeps recycling itself right now, okay? The key thing is to hold on to that thought, but not react to it. Don't attach any emotion to it. Just think about it and just be like it's a little thing that you're putting on a shelf right now. Just look at it. You have no emotional attachment to it, okay? The next one, step 2, is you're going to claim it without a story, okay? So just starting to say this in your head, think it's just a pattern of run, not who I am. Think of it this way, okay? You know when you go to the grocery store and you've got your bag, okay? Your bag is you. Your grocery bag is literally you. And you're walking around the grocery store and you pick different things to put in the bag, okay? Those different things that you put in the bag, those are your pattern, okay? So I want you to think of it as these things that you're putting in a pattern. You can take them out of the grocery bag and put something else in, okay? So claim what you've got, but don't make it a bigger deal than it really is. It's literally just a tomato. It's literally just a box of cereal, okay? Because we need to define what it is, because otherwise the shame spiral kicks in, okay? And then we should start losing it. So, and if you wish to, just breathe it in, breathe it out, because we want to come from a place where we're not tense, okay? We just want to be calm, we're detached from it. Now, the next slide is step 3. We're going to reframe it now, okay? Now, ask yourself, what was this behavior trying to protect you from? Because every neurodivergent money mistake is a protection strategy, okay? So, for example, when we talk about like, I used to be guilty of like when I was in a panic state and I would go on Amazon and I was just like, I want to buy this, I want to buy this, I want to buy this, okay? Think about what that was protecting you from, okay? Is it overstimulation? Is it fear? Mom's fear, trauma, burnout, abandonment issues, nervous system overload, executive function collapse, whatever it is, it's protecting you. It's a protection strategy for one of these things, okay? You don't have to hate the pattern. You just have to stop it, okay? It's like taking that vegetable, okay? You can look at it, the tomato, you don't have to hate it. You just need to put it back on the shelf and not put it in your grocery bag, okay? Because the thing is that for the time that it happened, it did its job, but now it's about writing a new script, okay? And then I like to have fun with this. So the next slide, have a good laugh. But if you struggle with this, especially when it's hard to see yourself objectively, ask yourself, how would you respond if a friend did the same thing? So you're grocery shopping with your friend and your friend picked up the tomato. And you know the tomato is really bad for your friend, like maybe your friend's allergic to tomatoes or something, like how would you respond, right? That's another way to look at it too, because look at how you can make the money issue be objective rather than a part of it, okay? And there's actually one more step. There is a 4th step, and that I like to add, that's called replace it. And pick one micro action that you can do that isn't a vanity fix. I've been there, it's like, well, if I had $5,000, I'd be able to fix it. Yeah, that's not happening, okay? It's got to be something about within the scope of what can you do right here, right now. And maybe the bill that you've been ignoring for 6 months, just simply open it, look at it, and put it back. Okay, maybe put a 2-minute timer and just like delete all of like my 1,500 email, you know, put a 2-minute timer and slowly you get through it. Again, it's not about trying to fix everything. I'm not going to try and delete 1,500 email. I'm just going to focus on only what I do in the 2 months. Check your balance without trying to fix anything about it. Just check it, look at it, close the account. Please decide a spending rule, only one. Again, not 10. Maybe you want to start saving money, so maybe move $5 into a savings account and not try and aim for 500, okay? If you want to change your financial life, you have to stop trying to become a new person, because that's not what we're trying to do. We're not trying to get a new shopping bag. What we're trying to do is change the thing that we put in and out of our shopping bag, okay? We want to be someone who has better habits. So changing the item, not yourself, okay? So now that we've talked about a neutralized shame, hopefully neutralized shame in some ways, and the goal is to get your nervous system back kind of on track, we can move into the other part that matter with our mindset. Because I know sometimes I'm a practical person and analogies work really, really well for me. So I have difficulty sometimes when people are like, regulate your nervous system, regulate. And I'm like, how? How do I regulate my nervous system? Like, I'm too analytical to think about what that looks like. So there's a couple of different theories that I would like to talk about because I feel that they were very, very helpful in me being able to figure out and connect like, oh, this is regulation. So the first one is the antenna theory, okay? And we've all laughed about the ADHD brain having too many tabs open, right? Welcome to the Neurodivergent Club. It's the same kind of thing. Everybody's brain is like a radio station, but the difference is that neurotypical people have like one antenna, okay? Clean signal, one thought at a time, stable, honestly boring, if I'm gonna be honest. Neurodivergent people have like thousands of antennas, and they're all picking up different frequencies at the same time, which is why it can be so overwhelming. And it can be a superpower, but it can also be a curse, right? When the antennas are scattered, you get static, right? You ever try to put like multiple radio channels at the same time? It gets static, you get noise, you get everybody else's energy hijacking the signal, everything else going on in the world. You get poverty thinking because every antenna is tuned into survive now, panic later, okay? So you're picking up all the things. But when those antennas line up, you're unstoppable. If you put all together, laser beam focus and energy, pattern recognition, like on God mode, really. Alignment is not about changing who you are, it's about not even becoming more normal. Don't even try to have one antenna, never gonna happen. It's about aiming your antennas in the same direction. And let's be real, the world today has been built to intentionally, am I allowed to swear? I don't know, to intentionally mess with us. The chaos that is created in this world today, especially since 2019, is intentional, okay? And neurodivergent brains used to thrive before the whole internet turned dopamine, the internet becoming basically your hostage situation, okay? So things have changed a lot. And while technology has been amazing in a lot of ways, it's also made it more difficult as a neurodivergent person to get focused, okay? So think of it this way in terms of money connection. Poverty is scrambled signal, okay? All your antennas in many different ways. Wealth is a line signal, okay? Poverty isn't just about like not enough money. It's when all of your antennas are tuned into different survival frequencies, like fear, guilt, urgency, self-doubt. I can't do this. I can't handle this. I don't feel safe. So when your signals all basically say, you don't feel safe, life is chaotic, that same thing mirrors back into your life, okay? But with wealth or wealth mindset, wealth happens when your thought and your emotion and your action are literally all going in the same direction. They all stack upon each other. And it's like what I'm building is already on its way because I'm building everything in the same direction, not pulling myself like an octopus in 500 different directions. And when that happens and you're very focused, people feel it. And if you've ever been in situations where you just feel like you're in the right space and all of a sudden these little opportunities start popping up, right? Things like that, that means that you are in that alignment. Like opportunities start to pop up. You stop fighting with yourself. Your mind actually starts to calm down even a little bit. And your energy amplifies instead of like being leaked everywhere and needing 500 spoons. So alignment doesn't replace action though, keep that in mind. You still have to act on it. You can't just be like, I'm thinking well, and it's gonna come to me and then just sit there and wait for it. It doesn't work that way. You do have to still act on it. What it does do is it supercharges. So whatever action that you take with that mindset, it's going to supercharge it, okay? The next thing I wanna talk about is the canoe theory, all right? So now that you understand about how your antennas work, let's talk about the canoe. This is actually one of my favorite metaphors because it explains neurodivergent alignment better than I think any mindset book that I have ever read. And I've read a lot of mindset books. Life is like a river, okay? And the river represents our world, the universe, whatever works for you to describe the world that you live in. The current is the direction of your energy that this universe, world, whatever, is actually trying to take you, okay? The canoe is you, okay? Your choices, your habits, your nervous system, your alignment, whatever you want to call it. So here is where things start to go wrong. If you try to paddle upstream, that's when you're forcing things that aren't meant for you. Okay, they're not in alignment with what you should be doing. So like the wrong job, the wrong timing, the wrong relationship, the wrong money strategy, the wrong mindset, which is what we're focusing on here, the wrong goal even. They are, when you try to paddle up, I don't know if any of you have been in a canoe, but when you try to paddle upstream, it takes so much of your energy and you don't actually move very far. And so this is where burnout lives, okay? This is where neurodivergent people feel like they're lazy or there's something wrong with them and they're incapable, when really they're just paddling in the wrong direction, okay? The next one is, oh, it's not even in order. Sorry, it's not in order, but the next one is when you choose not to steer or if you choose to just let go of your paddle, okay? This is the opposite extreme of trying to paddle upstream, okay? When you just let go of your paddle or you choose not to steer your canoe at all, this is like survivor mode, okay? You're literally lost and drifting and you're just choosing to take no action. You're exhausted probably, your antennas are scrambled, and you're like, I don't have any more spoons left. That I can't even steer my canoe. So what happens is you're gonna eventually end up going either in the wrong direction, right? A different part of the river that you were never meant to go in, or you're gonna hit the riverbank and then you're gonna get stuck. And then life starts to feel like foggy and confusion and like nothing's happening. And that's what happens when that situation happens, okay? Alignment needs direction, but not force, like paddling upstream, but you need to steer it so that you don't end up in the riverbank. Now, going with the flow and steering it, that's kind of where the magic happens, okay? You're not fighting the current, but you're also not completely abandoning the canoe either. You're allowing the universe, world, whatever, direction to kind of guide you, but you are doing it intentionally. And this is when life starts to feel like it's less forceful. There's less burnout. There's more momentum. Things start happening a little bit more. Decisions feel clear. You can think clearly. Opportunities are more obvious instead of questioning. Like if you've got 10 different things, you're actually able to kind of focus and go, like, there could be opportunity, there could be opportunity. And many responses about that. And this is where neurodivergent brains thrive because you're working like with your nervous system and not against it, which is like paddling upstream or just going wherever. Now, I like to add, and this is kind of the analogy that I added, which is the whitewater rapids. Going through a hard time doesn't mean that you're off course. Sometimes the river is going to get rough, right? So the whitewater rapids equals adversity, okay? If you panic and drop the paddle, you're going to get slammed. You might die even. But if you try to paddle away from the white water, you're going to burn out and then you're going to just end up drowning your nervous system, basically, because you have like nothing else left, right? But if you stay present and you steer very strongly and trust the current, you get through it faster, right? So here's the kicker. The river always, on the other side of the rapids, smooths out. Always. We don't have anything in the world where the whitewater rapids run for the entirety of the country, right? It always eventually smooths out. So to kind of like wrap up the canoe theory, upstream equals burnout. Having no paddle equals like being stuck or lost. Flow and steering is alignment. And whitewater is adversity that you move through, but don't stay in it or try to fight against it. So if the canoe theory teaches you anything, you're not supposed to force life, you're supposed to guide it. Okay, that makes any sense? So now you kind of lined up. The canoe is facing in the right direction. Something interesting happens. You stop chasing things and start trusting the process. And this is where the Amazon theory comes in. Again, another theory that I should kind of create it because, again, it should make sense to me. So the Amazon theory is what I call your work frequency. Okay, so think of work like an Amazon package. When you hit order, you don't panic, you don't doubt it, you don't ask the universe if you're worthy of the paper towels that you ordered or whatever it is that you ordered on Amazon. You get a confirmation email, you clean the space for whatever you're going to be having received, and your nervous system shifts into it's already mine. So that is alignment, what it really does. But for neurodivergent people, especially me, and like Lord help us all, but we hit order, well, certainly I did, and refresh 40 times, right? We imagine 18 ways that our packages could like get lost and not show up at our door. we assume that the driver is lying about the delivery time, right? Because you know how when you look at it and it's like, oh, delivery coming at this time, and it's going to be there by 6 o'clock. And at like 5:58, we're like, our delivery driver lied to us, right? We're thinking things like that. And then we start thinking like the world hates that because we can't get what we. So that constant refreshing, the scrambled antenna energy, that's why wealth feels like it's late or not happening at all. Because the moment you stop chasing and shift into expectation, like you order and you trust it's gonna come, that's when everything cleans up. So expectation is not passive, it's just simply more precise, okay? It's the moment that your brain says, I already placed the order, I don't need to chase the delivery truck, my only action is to make space for it, okay? Athletes call it flow state. CEOs call it focus. Spiritual people call it alignment. It's the same process, it's different language. The truth is that you get what you are calibrated for. And if you're tuned into stress and scarcity, that's the signal that you're going to keep picking up, like that radio signal. So if you change the signal, you're going to change the result. Okay. So you probably have heard of like when they say when you decide to buy a red car, that you see it everywhere, right? They didn't magically appear. No, you just turned your perception and tuned it into the red car. Okay. So the one we're going to be going into Q&A pretty soon. And I have a question because I asked this question like, okay, yeah, but this doesn't pay the rent. And it's like, you're absolutely right. Mindset does not fill the fridge with your groceries. But here's the question I have to ask you is, does panic ever do it any better? And I actually literally asked myself that after asking that question. And I was like, well, is panic helping me? No. If stress and survival thinking were literally the answer, every overworked person in this world right now would be rich, right? Alignment doesn't replace the work, it just makes that the work you do count, okay? Just to keep the two different. It's like you're aiming before you shoot. So you still pull the trigger, but now you're actually going to hit something because instead of just running around shooting randomly, you're being focused, you've got your target, you aimed at your target and you're gonna hit it because you're still taking the action. So most of what we were trained, especially if we're neurodivergent, is to grind, stress, survive. That system keeps people tired, not thriving, okay? So I'm not saying that alignment replaces action, I'm just saying that it amplifies it. And then you're less tired because your action is actually gonna do something for you. So the key thing is to make sure that your head and your heart and your habit and anything else are not fighting each other, but rather moving smoothly. So this is not about pretending that bills are going to get paid. It is about clearing enough mental and emotional static from your antennas so that your decisions stop coming from a place of fear. Because when fear is not the one driving the canoe, you can finally create space for like a better paying job, a surplus that you didn't expect, an opportunity that you might have missed. Decisions that shift from this pattern, this hamster wheel that you're in, to the other side that you want to be in. So that's what frees you from repeating the same year over and over. Because I did this for 23 years. I repeated this because my mindset was not there. I was literally repeating the same mistakes, thought process, and everything. So mindset does not replace money, but misalignment blocked it. And I think that's the key thing if you can take from there. And once you stop paddling upstream or you stop scrambling antennas and stop refreshing your Amazon tracking order, your results start arriving a whole lot faster and much more clear. So before we actually jump into the Q&A, I do want to leave you with this. To wrap up everything. Everything is about small shifts. Don't try to change your life out at once. Small shifts, cleaner signals, aligned direction. Remember, it's like shooting the target, right? You want to be focusing on the target. Those are the things that move the needle, not force, not burnout, not panic, okay? And if there's nothing else that you take from today, take this. You are allowed to build a life that does not drain you. You're allowed to have more. You should never feel guilty for that. You are allowed to receive them. And the whole thing about, oh, being humble, no. You're allowed to literally have everything that you want. You're absolutely capable of rising when your system is aligned with your reality instead of fighting it, okay? So now that what we've covered today is literally just the foundation. Your next level opens when everything lined up, your intents, your canoe, actions start contradicting your desires, things like that. And so today is literally just about shift in foundation purely through mindset. Okay. I think we're ready for Q&A now.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was, I'm so glad you went through all that, because like, even though, and I know some of us might be suffering from a little bit of information overload, which is a good thing that we are recording this and you will get a recap at the end of it. But so much wisdom in there, and, tying, and a lot of these lessons, apply to a lot of areas of our life. But I love how you were able to tie it into the financial aspect, which is what we so desperately need. And I hope that, it's really resonated with everybody. But yes, let's dive into the Q&A in the last couple of minutes of our chat here. So we'll go through as many as we can. The first one, I will read it out loud. It says, my brain is telling me if I do my finances and taxes wrong, I'll go to jail. Is this true? I have literally asked this question to a finance coach before. I said, if I do this wrong, will I go to jail? Jesse, I know you're not an accountant, but what do you make of this?
Yeah, I am not a chartered accountant or a tax lawyer, so I can only respond to this within the scope and out of my lived experience. So the short answer is no. You're not going to go to jail for making a mistake on your taxes. I have definitely made mistakes on my finances and taxes. The long answer is that people who commit fraud go to jail. Okay, like intentional and repeated, kind of like cooking the book, on purpose fraud. You don't go to jail if you file late, if you miscalculate something, if you have neurodivergent executive dysfunction, not understanding tax language. Because if that was the case, and jail was the punishment for tax confusion, half of the country would be behind bars right now, including accountants, because accountants also make mistakes. So what the CRA, the Canadian Revenue, so if you're American, you'll have your own. What they care about is accuracy and correction, not punishment. So if you make a mistake, they're not going to send the police. They're going to send you a letter. I actually had this happen. They sent a letter. And it's usually something like, hey, we recalculated this for you. And they could the different information. Or they would say, this information seems incorrect. Can you confirm that? So all you do is you respond it, you fix it, and you move on. It's boring. So it's not anything to panic about. Side note, there are services that anyone can go to that offer to do your taxes for free. Just Google in free tax clinic and then wherever you're located. It may take time, but they are chartered accountants, so they're legit and they can help you. And they run on certain days, and you book to see them on the days that they do free tax days during tax season. So for Canada, I know if you are looking to, they start in February. So they do start earlier, so just be prepared for that. I hope that answered the question.
No, I think that was fantastic. Let's move on to the next question here, because I want to get through as many as we can. How do I stop? So the question is, how do I stop going into debt when I struggle to hold down a job? Jesse, what do you think?
Not the high one. I definitely lived that for several years. It was honestly the only thing I could think about. What I come to realize is I used to think that having a stable job would fix everything, and it actually doesn't, especially when you're in debt. You don't need a stable job. What you need is to build stability, emotional stability especially, but stability in your nervous system, right? Because you want to make sure that you are making decisions and not coming from a place of fear or chaos or anything like that. The first thing I would say is first of all, stabilize yourself. Because the more unstable you are, the more you actually create debt for yourself. Because if everything's scrambled, your money choices that are coming from fear, that you start making mistakes with your money. And you start making decisions that are kind of impulsive, that make you more in debt. But when you're more stable, you can make better money choices. So at first I would start with that. Make your money decisions, some of them, predictable. That's going to also help stabilize you. So for example, the one thing that I did was the best thing I ever did was I made my phone bill auto pay. And honestly, it's just a huge way. It's stable. And the fact that I'm able to pay it and know that it's going to get paid on time was improving my credit score. So make one little thing you can in terms of money be predictable, and it can only be tiny. Like you don't have to make it big, because those tiny consistencies stop making the big debt and allows your nervous system to relax a little bit. Um, Alongside that, I would say also we all know what our defaults are. We all know what we automatically go to when we deal with a certain emotion, right? And we know that we struggle in the heat of those emotions. One of the things that I had done was I actually created my pre-decided default. So I wrote things out and I said, okay, when I start to feel like this, I'm going to do this instead of this, right? When I'm panicking, I'm going to check my bank account instead of go on Amazon and try to buy 1,000 things, right? When you preset your default, eventually it's not going to be perfect the first time. You're gonna mess up. We all do, but you keep repeating it, and those defaults become your new habit, and then they protect you from, spiral spending or getting yourself into more debt. The other thing I would also say is, especially if you're dealing with debt, one of the biggest shifts that I had from my debt was negotiate everything. If your total reported debt, and when I say reported debt, I mean things that show up on your credit report, not like personal loans, things like that. If it's under 50K, negotiate with your creditors and your collectors. Honestly, a lot of them will actually accept whatever it is that you want to renegotiate. Offers say, I can pay this, but I can only pay this amount. They reduce lump sum. If you need help drafting what you want to say to them to make sure that you really make your point, use ChatGPT. They can write the most perfect letter for you, and it's very, very fast. That's what I did. And I managed to get out of my 5 debts, I managed to get 3 of them renegotiated and gone. If your debt is over 50K though, I would explore consolidation agencies or even bankruptcy. And the thing about bankruptcy is that it's come a long way. There was a time where you never wanted to file for bankruptcy because it would like ruin you. It's not like that. And in the last 8 years, there's been a lot of changes in the way that they do bankruptcy that actually will, you can still get your life back up kind of thing. The thing to remember though, that whether it's bankruptcy or consolidation, you will still have to pay a fee and a portion of the debt. So it's not just okay, bye-bye, like it doesn't work that way. You are still going to be held accountable and responsible for that. But if your debt is really, at a point where you really cannot live, those are some options to think about with debt. Now, with struggling to hold down a job, the thing I would say is lower the load, not the standard. Pick work that matches your spoon, okay? Not other people's expectations. And I know that might not make sense when it comes to but I need more money to pay my debt, and I get that. But this is short term. So try not to think of it as like this is the end or beyond. Think it's literally short term. So think of like short shift, flexible roles, remote tasks, gig-based income. This buys you a little bit of breathing room. I actually took a job at Amazon, the Amazon distribution thing, just to give my brain a break. And honestly, it was great because I needed something where it's like, okay, I'm still making money, but I'm not killing myself doing that. And also along that line of thought is, instead of thinking of like one big giant job that is burning you out, taking up all of your spoon, build micro income. It's a lot better to, like, if you have like one job that's like rigid with the schedule and it feels suffocating, that's gonna burn you out. But if you have like say 3 tiny flexible ones that feel doable, that's gonna be a lot more manageable and will actually get you even closer to your goal. And just make money predictable, even in the smallest ways when you build your income. Like if you do a gig and it only pays you like $50 a week, but it's predictable, that's going to calm your nervous system down better, and you can actually make better money choices. I hope that gives them.
There's so much good stuff in there, honestly. So great. And so, like,
try to give
It
advice.
is hard to know without more context, right? Like somebody's like, what kind of job should I get? And like, I don't know you. But but that being said, that was really great. And I think we have time for one more question before we wrap up our session today. So I'm just going to write here. How do I know what kind of finance person I need to talk to? Like, should I talk to a coach or an advisor? Are there free options out there? I don't want to be upsold because that stresses me out. Me too. What do you think, Jess?
I definitely been there. I was in that really bad spot, and I thought I'm going to talk to a financial coach, and I did. I went in, and they were like, "Okay, well, if you give me $400," and you have to understand, I was like a single mother. My kids were very young. My oldest is autistic, so it's not like I was able to have a full-time job or anything because he stayed at home for a year. And the pushiness made me panic. And thank goodness they had the 24-hour rule because I literally came back and collected that money. The panic was just, then here's the short answer. If someone calls themselves a financial advisor, okay, and says that you have to pay them for their service, run. That's illegal, okay, if they call themselves a financial advisor. Secondly, to ensure that they're qualified, they need to be with a brokerage, okay? So even if they're independent, they must have a body that governs them. And if they start giving you some, BS answers about like, oh, I work for myself, I mean, like, no. Because there is a difference between a financial advisor and a financial coach, okay? So a financial advisor is licensed. They have to hold a real license. So in Canada, that means like your LLQP, Quebec would be like the FP, like there's different ones, and then there's also the IIROC. So those are governing bodies for basically Canada that regulate for financial advisors. And financial advisors can help you with like insurance and investment and tax strategy and retirement planning and basically like long-term financial, okay? A financial coach is legal, but they're not licensed, so keep that in mind. And anyone can call themselves a financial coach. But what they can help with and what they're allowed to help with is like budgeting, money habits, emotional patterns related to that, basic planning, like basic budgeting, accountability even. But it's a really, really big red flag if a coach starts giving you investment advice that's outside of their scope, and it's actually very unsafe. So if they start doing that again, run. There are some free options out there that do exist if you want to have that help. And they will never try to upsell you because they are not a for-profit business, okay? So credit counseling agencies, so they have to be government approved though. If they're not government approved, they're not legit. They're kind of like an independent and they will charge you. But the ones that are credit counseling agencies that are government approved, they by law have to offer services for free. Community financial literacy programs, and I actually know of a few, so if you ever want to find them out, I can redirect you to that. Settlement agencies, so like if you're like a newcomer, a lot of them will have their own financial advisor or coaching on that. Libraries with financial workshops. There's a lot of libraries out there that run financial workshops, usually around tax season for that January to March timeframe. Universities, colleges, they also have tax clinics, especially if they're the ones that are teaching how to do them. You can very often go in there and get some free advice. Not that it's my favorite because the CRA is always my favorite organization to deal with, but they do have online representatives. Like, I wouldn't say chatbots, but you can actually talk to them online and they will answer some of your questions for free. But I would only go to them if it's more to do with taxes, because in terms of like getting advice for other things, they're not really a good help there. So to just kind of like get a sense of which is which, if you need help with money habits, look for a coach. Okay. If you need help with like say setting up like insurance and investment or long-term planning, look for a licensed advisor. And if you're scared of being like upsold or being stressed out, start with any of the free non-for-profit resources that I just shared with you. And from there, it's not that you have to plan anything, but if they can give you clarity, they might help you decide which way you want to go and who you want to go to.
It's fantastic. Thank you so much for all of your wisdom and expertise and experience today, Jessie. Honestly, like it's so helpful and so refreshing, honestly, to hear about it from a neurodivergent perspective. And I just wanted to share a little bit about a special offer that Jessie has kindly shared with us as, the attendees of office hours. For a limited time, there is going to be 45% off of her ebook, The Spoon-Friendly Path from Broke to Thriving. We covered some of the material here, I believe, but there is a lot more in there that you can definitely check out. Jessie, do you have anything you wanted to say about this?
Yeah, so this is the book that was inspired by Veronica. And honestly, she kind of made this book come to life, and she made me realize that I had a lot that a very kind of like valid and very tangible activities that we could put into this. So the book is 40 pages, but please do not let that scare you. It's a lot of pushes. It's a lot of like actual exercises in there, because I'm one of those people where it needs to be in the same page for me to actually do it. Because if it's not, and I have to go get another piece of paper, ADHD dysfunction, right? I know that didn't work very well for me. The green light, red light, yellow light, the traffic light system, that's in there. So it's got a lot of things, and it covers a lot of different ways of thinking, different ways of responding. But there's also some things in there that are also very kind of tangible. And that was the key thing for me, was to make sure that you walked away with at least some sort of a foundation to work with, that you can go like, okay, now I can actually take the first step. And I used to hate when people will, I used to go to so many different financial advice and things like that. And I used to hate when people would be like, oh yeah, you can buy like this course or this program, and it's like, like $500. And I'm like, I'm literally like, where am I going to get $500 for, right? And they used to always use the terminology of like, but it's an investment. And I hate that, because it's guilt tripping. I hate when they do that. And so the thing is that I recognize that like not everything can be for free. But my goal with this was, this is not a means to be a profit thing. This is a means to help you, right? And so this is why, for me, if I can help you guys and give it like 45% off, so that way you guys can have access to it, then I'm happy with that. Because the key thing is about financial accessibility, right? So that's kind of my goal with this. But it's a very colorful book. I love colors. So, but it does have a lot of things in there that the idea being what's going to possibly work for you, that you can work on for yourself, so that you can start getting to the next level.
Fantastic. Aside from that, I'm just going to plug my own thing as well. You may know about the Facebook support group, but it is another free resource that I do run through Atypical Careers. I'm popping the link in the chat, along with the KaizenLemonade.ca link that is to Jessie's website as well. Definitely check that out and use the code to check out her ebook. But this is also a support group that you can use if you want to talk to other neurodivergent professionals, ask questions, read about their experiences, feel seen, all of that stuff. And what's more, I do also have a new online course that has come out called Misfit to Master Plan, which is all about helping you create your neurodivergent friendly career strategy. So you can actually transition out of your situation and get clarity on what to do next and how to do it in a way that honors the way that your brain needs to work. So definitely check that out. The first lesson is free. It's actually about the neurodivergent employment burnout cycle, which I'm sure a lot of you guys can relate to. So feel free to check that out there. Otherwise, we've come to the end of the presentation. So once again, I wanted to thank Jessie so much for being here, for sharing her wisdom and her insights. Yeah, no, oh my God. Like, I think I learned a whole bunch of stuff just through this one session. So yeah, no, I'm so excited about this. And, hopefully, we'll be able to see Kaizen Lemonade grow and expand as you continue to work on it. Thank you, everybody, for being such a great audience. I hope you've taken away something helpful today. If you have any questions, please feel free to let us know by emailing us or any of that kind of stuff. You have our contact information there. Otherwise, we're going to wrap up here. So thank you very much, and have a great day, everyone.
Bye.
I'm just stopping the recording. It's taking a second. Stop.